What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Rad Builds. It's been a while, but I'm back, and today I'm going to show you how to build this Viking shield with 4 scenes painted from How to Train Your Dragon. Now let's get to it. For this build I used 10mm foam, 6mm foam, 2mm foam, 2 12-inch wooden paint sticks, 1 larger paint stick, 14 toothpicks, hot glue, super glue, weldwood contact cement, a small foam drill, an x-acto knife, a pencil, silver permanent marker, scissors, a meter stick, a ruler, a circle jar, a small round bowl, a dremel, and finally a heat gun. And for the paint supplies, I used black Plasti-Dip spray paint, silver spray paint, paper plates, painter's tape, paper towels, black paint, dark brown paint, light brown paint, and a larger paintbrush. And for those 4 specific movie scenes, I used a lot more colors of paint. And I won't list them all out, but here's a closer picture of what they are. Therefore, I needed a lot more paintbrushes and a few more toothpicks for the fine painting. To glue this floor mat square and a large square of 2mm foam together, I'm going to use weldwood contact cement. To use this contact cement, you paint both sides of what you're gluing, then allow enough time for the cement to dry, and then carefully put the 2 pieces together. Honestly, this cement has a very pungent odor that kind of hangs around for a while, so I would recommend using this cement in a well-ventilated area or outside. After marking out the center with my meter stick, I used my handy-dandy circle drawing tool that I made when I was just a boy to draw a 22-inch diameter circle. Then I used my x-acto knife to cut the circle out. On the front, I drew a 4-inch diameter circle and then long lines that are 3 3/4 inches spaced apart. Then I cut the circle out and the long pieces apart. Next, I used a dremel to dig in and make long scroll lines that mimic the look of real wood. And I did this on both sides of all of the pieces. I'm going to use toothpicks to hold the foam pieces together. So I took 2 toothpicks to stab into one side of an edge piece, and then I marked where the toothpicks would go into the adjacent one. Then I added super glue for some extra support. These are the spots where I will insert the rest of the toothpicks. To make the shield stiffer, I'm going to glue 3 wooden painting sticks on the back. The 2 regular sized ones will be on the outsides, while the larger one will go in the middle. It will also act as the handle. Next, I'm cutting out a 6-inch diameter circle out of 6mm foam and a 7-inch ring of 2mm foam that is about an inch wide. Before gluing these on, I used my heat gun to melt the 6-inch circle into this amazing Spider-Man bowl to make the foam also bowl-shaped. This process does take a while, but it is well worth it because the end product looks much better than a dome created from triangle pieces that would have multiple seams holding them together. Then I used contact cement to glue both the ring and the dome onto the shield. After that, I wrapped a strip of 2mm foam around the handle. Around the perimeter of the shield, I am going to use contact cement to glue 2 35-inch strips of 2mm foam that are about 2.5 inches wide. So there is an inch of overlay on each side when folded down. Then I cut out these small orange circles, of which I glued 6 on the inside ring, 14 on the outside ring, and then another 26 on the back. After that, I used my dremel again to grind and shape the wooden sticks to match the shield a little better. I also used the dremel to grind dents and gashes into the foam to give the shield a more used look. Following that, I used my heat gun to seal the foam. This process makes painting much easier and the final product looks so much better. It's painting time. First, we will need to prime the foam, but before that, I covered up the wooden sticks because the Plasti-Dip spray I'm going to use gives a rubbery feel which is great for priming foam, but not so great for wood. And I'm going to use specifically black Plasti-Dip spray paint. Once the Plasti-Dip was dry, I taped off all of the parts I don't want to be silver, so basically the non-metal pieces, and I did this of course on both the front and the back. And I'm going to use Rust-o-leum metallic silver spray paint. Once the silver was dry, I peeled off the painter's tape and began painting the long inside pieces with the dark brown. Notice I left a lot of black visible. I then mixed together a lighter brown and added that as well. This finished product resembles wood so well because of a mix of the grooves and the different shades of paint. And of course I did the same thing on the back. I also painted the foam on the handle to make it look like leather. Now it's time to blackwash. To do so, I mixed black paint and water. Then I applied a little bit of the mixture to the shield. Quickly after, I used a paper towel to wipe most of it away. The little leftover makes the shield look so much more realistic and battle worn. On the back, this mixture also made for an excellent stain for the wooden sticks so they could better match the foam wood. Finally, I'm using a silver permanent marker to color the small foam circles on the wooden sticks. Time to Bob Ross this thing. For this first scene, I blended on a fiery look of red, orange, and yellow. And then to really make the fire pop, I added on these white highlights. And finally, I painted on Toothless and Hiccup. For the second scene, I painted the water with Megamine Blue, but you'll notice I left a lot of brown visible, and this will help a lot painting the reflection. Afterwards, I used some white paint to paint on the lower sky, and then blended it with the blue in the upper sky. Next, I added the reflections on the water, and then painted on the rocky arch they fly through. On the arch, I painted these green and lighter brown highlights, and these are very important because they give a lot of depth to the painting and make it more realistic. Once they were dry, I painted on the mist, and finally painted on Hiccup and Toothless gliding through the air. For the third scene, I painted on a grassy background, a black base for Toothless, and then blended some blue on top. After the base was dry, I used Mike Wazowski green for his eye, some jet black for his pupil, and then a little white for the glare on top. For the features on his face, I just painted on a lot of highlights and shadows, and then blended them in. And honestly, that's really all painting is, just lots of highlights and shadows. As the man with the lovely voice would say, anyone can do it. I painted the little ball weight for the apparatus keeping Toothless as a downed dragon, and then I used some brown and tan for the ropes. Afterwards, I painted on Hiccup's little baby knife, and then his hands grasping around it. For his hands, it's very important to add a little bit of red because it gives them warmth and makes them look more lifelike. I made his sleeves look a little wrinkled and dirty, because he wears the same thing for who knows how long, and then painted on his face. After that, I added on his hair and his fuzzy coat. I finished by adding the bands around his forearms. For the final scene, I painted the whole background purple and then gave the top region a more powdery look with some light gray. Next, I painted on moss along with some rocks and bushes. And then I painted the reflections on the water below. Soon after, I used Barbie paint to make ripples on the water, and then I painted on a lonely rock as well. It was finally time to paint Toothless, and I did so with a blend of black, purple, and even some pink. For Hiccup, I began painting his shirt, and of course I added some highlights and shadows. Then I painted his belt and coat, as well as his face and hands. For his hair, I added a lot of orange highlights, and then I finished off the painting with the sewings on his shirt. The paintings are pretty much complete, so I removed the tape and here's what they all look like. I did go back and paint some scales on Toothless, as well as put some brown back in the scratches to make the wood peek through. But after that, the shield is complete. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my new video releases. And if you haven't seen the new live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, you should go watch it. And if you haven't seen the old cartoon version, you should definitely go watch it. Those films are amazing and the scores are absolutely incredible. But that's all for now. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys next time on Rad Builds.